Welcome, 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 welcome. What's up with y'all? Hopefully, all is well. Hopefully, wherever you are being appreciated and never, never, never tolerated. My name is Ken Billions. If you didn't know, it's an honor and a pleasure to come to you today in the spirit of personal development. I hope everybody is doing well, and I just wanted to give you great news that you're at the right place at the right time. You are amongst family, you are amongst friends, and I promise you, this is the number one home for personal development. This is ministry for the abstract mind, and it's a safe space for everybody out there that has an out the box philosophy. What's good, y'all? I missed y'all. Part of my absence, I always take microphone breaks at least once or twice out the year. So, my conversations be hit or miss, but I appreciate those that rock with me. I have the same pattern every year. I just go missing, but it's all good. I'm here, and we are going to finish up a series that we started last month. And I'm glad that I slowed it down like this and walked it down, and we didn't finish very quickly because this series about the kybalion is very important, and it's important that we don't breeze through things that are esoteric or occult that quickly. We have to sit with it, we have to hear it, and then we have to plug the information in into our real life. And that's one of the mistakes that people make in modern times. They go through information too fast. You hear something once and think you got it. You don't sit with it, right? And then you go to the next topic and to the next topic. But you're supposed to sit with this, right? You're supposed to sit with information that is esoteric or ancient, because it has to be revealed to you as you learn it. You got to go out in the world, and then it's going to come to you. You're going to see signs and symbols, and it's important that you slow grind this information so you can receive everything the right way, and you just don't become a information whore, and you go to topic just trying to be stimulated. But I appreciate you, and I want to tell you that you're in the right place at the right time. If you have babies, please keep your babies close. And if you have someone that's loving on you, let them, because this love thing is difficult. I got great news for everybody. My news is that personal development is for everybody. The great thing about personal development, it really is come as you are. Personal development is an amazing, because personal development is for the gays, it's for the trans, it's for the straights, it's for the blacks, the whites, the skinny, the fat, the tall, the dark. It doesn't matter. Light, babies, rich, poor. Personal development is for everybody, because no matter where you are, you're always going to need to be developed more in that area, whether that's your health, your relationship, your finances, your healing journey, your intellect journey, college, career. It does not matter what you're doing or where you are. Personal development is always needed. So that's my great news. That no matter where you are, you can come put your ass in these seats, and whether you got more dough than somebody, you a chick, you a dude, it don't matter. We all come together in fellowship, in the spirit of personal development. Where's everybody from? Real quick, let me acknowledge y'all. I haven't seen y'all pretty faces in a couple weeks, so I just want to make sure, I give some love to all the baddies, all the homies, all the responsible individuals out there. Let me show some love to the ratchets. Let me show some love to the G's. Where's everybody pulling up from? Let me see where we got. Let's see. We got Germany, no Germany, Cincinnati in the building. What's good? Okay, Queens in the building. My favorite rappers from Queens. Who you think it is? Indianapolis, Naptown. I knew I seen Germany. No, that's seen you already. Shout out to Queens. I thought I seen Germany. I thought I seen Germany. Part of my phone. Okay, we got Cleveland. We got Dallas in the building. All right, all right. We got Memphis. All right, in the building. I've been to Memphis one time, and when I went to Bill Street, I was like, okay, yeah, I seen girls with finger waves and gold teeth in their mouth. I'm like, okay, it's lit out here. Let me see. We got Massachusetts in the building. What it do? We got Kansas in the building. San Antonio in the building. Man, I love Coin Game because we've got people that pull up from everywhere. We got Boston in the building. We got Texas in the building. Let me where else we got? We got Hollywood in the building. What it do? What's happening? We got North Carolina in the building. Uh Kansas City, Missouri in the building. You guessed it. Yeah, my favorite rapper is from Queens and it is Nas. Can't nobody tell me nothing about Nas. All right, shout out to y'all though. Shout out to y'all. Everybody here, you came at the right place. You're at the right place at the right time. Listen, we're going to finish our conversation and we are on the last principle. We've went through rhythm, we've went through vibration, we've went through polarity. Today we are going over the last principle of the kybalion, which is gender. Gender. And shout out to everybody that copped the kybalion and that's reading it on their own, right? There's the link right there if you want to get that. And I recommend that you do not read this quickly. I recommend that you slow grind it because it's spoken in paradox. Okay. So today is the last principle of the kybalion, which is gender. And shout out to everybody that's been waiting on me and been patient and that have walked with me as we dissect and decode these paradoxes. You know, it takes abstract thinking. It takes people that step out the realm of binary thinking to understand dark wisdom, parables, and paradoxes. So, shout out to you. So, today we're going to do the Lord's work and finish what we started. Our conversation today, our build today is unraveling the gender code, a journey of understanding. A journey of understanding. The reason why I take microphone breaks is because I'm a person that it's important for me to work through my thoughts. It's important for me to work through my philosophy. So before I come and chop it up with you about ideals, I make sure that I work through the ideals. I sit with them. You know, I take the ideals with me when I travel. I go to different areas in the cities that I'm in and I really sit with my ideals. I hear something, I have to sit with it, right? I sit with it with headphones on. I sit with it in different environments at the park, in the car. I sit with it at the dinner table. It's important for me to work through my ideals before I come and chop it up with you. So I have to take microphone breaks and I already had the topic of gender because it's in the kybalion. So my notes was already complete, but I had to sit with it because gender is very misunderstood in modern times. Gender is in all things. No matter what you're looking at, gender is in it. Male, female is in it. See, male and female first starts as an energy baked into the matrix. And when I say the matrix, we're talking about the womb, right? The mind of God. It's already here. It's a it's a pole, right? Opposites, but they're the same thing. You go in nature, male dog, male cat, male lion, female lion. But it doesn't just stop there in animals. Gender is in all things. Positive, negative side, a masculine side, a feminine side, right? Gender is in all things. The building blocks of creation is gender. You separate things based on their feminine based on their masculine. The problem is when these ideals are delivered to us, they are delivered based on the separation of spheres, the separation of spheres, right? Guy over here, girl over here. This color is associated with a guy, this color is associated with a girl. The problem with gender is it has discrimination in it. But nature does not discriminate. Nature is fair, and nature treats us all the same. I can prove it. We are taught that there's something called the law of gravity, that there is a force pulling objects down. So that's why we can't float, right? If I go skydiving and I'm with my female partner, and with my lady friend, right? I'm the male, she's the female. But we both don't have parachutes jumping out of the plane. The law of gravity is going to have the same effect on us. Okay? Not only is the law of gravity going to have the same effect on us, not just me, other males and females. The law is going to apply to them the same. And I can extend the law of gravity into other things and say, when it comes to natural law affects the male and the female the same. It does not discriminate. Humans discriminate. See, nature, proper nature. And what I mean proper nature, that means something that man don't touch, right? It grows and dies without man touching it, right? Nature, the intelligence, it does not separate males and females. It does the same thing to the male and it does the same thing to the female. The human comes along and begins to discriminate and begins to compartmentalize and put one thing over here and another thing over here. The human discriminates because it looks at things that are different. But the occultist understands that even when things look different, they are the same. Okay? The occultist separates things to understand the nature of the thing, but you put it back together after you study it. Out of many, one. Okay. So in spirit or in nature, nature is androgynous. Okay? So that means both principles, both poles exist. And you can pull from it for creating things. Okay, let me slow it down. So nature is androgynous, male and female energy, poles, opposites already exist already. And you can pull male energy and pull female energy from the androgynous, right? Out of many, one. So this one energy has many layers in it that you can pull from it, okay? When you pull from it, the only thing you're doing is understanding the androgynous nature of what you call the universe. But you don't separate them. You put them back together because it makes one. You only separate them to understand the higher, the lower, the left, the right, the multiple sides, right? But you put it back together. Now, the way that we are educated from religion, our parents, our communities, podcasters, we are taught that men over there, women over there, right? There's a separation. Now, on each side, there's a charismatic figure that is the leader of each side. But the only person that benefits from these poles being separate are the leaders, are the clergy, are the ministry, are the government. But question, why is it so important to separate us? Think about it. Gender war. If there's a gender war, then you're at war with yourself because it's knowledge of self. So in knowledge of self, I'm all things. Right? So if I go to war with the woman, or if I go to war with the feminine, that means I am at war with myself. If you're a woman and you go at the war with the masculine, you're at war with yourself. Because out of many, one. So it's very important to separate the two, right? Not for understanding, though, for commerce, for business, right? Because these two things that are really one then take on a tribal mentality. They begin to take on a us versus them, me versus you. I'm superior, not, and and you're inferior. And what we do is we look at our differences, but don't understand that it's still part of the same coin. Gender is in all things. So remember, when we're looking at nature, nature don't discriminate. Humans do, right? In nature, forces, the elements, fire, water, wind, earth, treats us the same, right? If man thinks he's superior, cool. Can you stand the force of a tornado? Would the tornado come to you and bypass you because you're a male? If there's a typhoon, will the waters part because you're a male? Right? When we look at the female, can you stick your arm in direct fire? Right? Will those forces not burn you like it'll burn the male? Right? We are the same. We have differences, but the occultist understands that we are the same. Politics. People with the minds of Queen Victoria or Hammurabi separate the poles, right? But notice, they're always being separated by those that want some type of power. Because as long as you're separate, I can put you in tribes. If I can put you in tribes, I can get you to fight wars for me. And after a while, you won't even remember why the reason you're fighting. Right? You won't even remember what this is over. You just know that's the blue side and this is the red side. But you don't know what the reason you're fighting. And this gender war, that's a war with self. I don't care about followers. I don't care about who's popping. I don't care about none of that. I don't care what nobody says. When the camera goes off, real life starts. Okay? So there's always going to be an internal conflict in regards to knowledge of self if you don't accept the fact that you are two things at once. You are always a male, you are always a female. There is never a time where you are one thing. There is never a time where you don't have what is called the feminine energy in you. There is never a time where you don't have the masculine energy in you. It's how you use it, but you are always those things. You know why? Because gender is in everything at all times, except when human beings discriminate, right? So I want to show you some of the discrimination and how this affects us, right? Now, it's always going to be based on power. When people separate the genders, it's not for any study. It's not for any advancement in thinking. It's always for power, right? Now, whoever's the best at separating the genders is going to be the leader. Right? It's always they're always going to separate you so they can lead you, right? Because if the genders are together, then you don't need leaders. If the genders are together, it's going to mess up a lot of people's business model, right? So dudes over there, chicks over here, right? Tall guys over here, short guys over here. You see, this is all technology. And you start looking at your differences and forgetting that the majority of time you are the same, right? The sun shines on the male and female. The rain hits the male and the female. Death hits the male and the female. I just was at a funeral recently, and I was just, in my head, and I'm walking across the cemetery, and I'm looking at people's headstones, you know what I'm saying? And I see a man buried next to a woman. The cemetery is full of people that we said ain't the same while they're alive. But in death, they are the same. In birth, they are the same. So what's making the man and the woman different? People. People are saying this. But in nature, they're the same. Die the same. Live the same. Cancer, right? High blood pressure, right? Same. Okay? So what I want to focus on is the natural law. Like, we don't deal with that, right? We deal with religion. We don't actually deal with natural law, right? When you deal with natural law, you'll see that the genders is the same because the law has an effect on both. So natural law versus man's law. Natural law based on principles and truth. Man's law is based on dogmatic beliefs, talking points. In natural law, things just is. You don't got talking points. You don't have a structured way of looking at the world every day because each day is different. See, when we talk about the nature of men and women, we never define nature. Okay? No matter where you are, when babies are born, they all go to the nipple. That's nature. No matter where a woman is, they experience a menstrual cycle. That's nature. They're born like that. No one taught us how to smile. No one taught us anger. We was already born with it in the human meat suit. That's nature. Women in Australia get a period. Women in New York get a period. They never knew each other. Men in California get angry. Men in England get angry. How's that possible when they never met each other? It's part of the human meat suit. That's nature. People confuse learned behavior, social conditioning with the nature of a male, the nature of a female. No, your nature is upon arrival, the things that you have already inside of you that you do without humans teaching you. Don't you use the bathroom? You don't decide that. Your body does that and lets you know, yo, you better find somewhere to go because this is happening. No one taught you that. The hygienic part, that's culture. But when I had my child, I was blown away that how did he know to go to the nipple? How do those babies know that? That's nature. Male baby, female baby, white baby, black baby, baby from Iran, baby from Tibet. They all do the same thing. Then the culture part starts. And people say, boys are this, girls are this, right? But upon arrival, they're the same. And in death, they are also the same. When you look at man's law, differs with location. See, natural law don't change. Natural law does not matter where you are, still applies. Gravity is gravity in China and gravity is gravity in New York. Don't matter. When I go to China, there's going to be tampons and pads. Don't matter. When I go to France, there's going to be tampons and pads. That's nature. That is design. It's part of the female meat suit. Okay? But people are skillful at separation. So the separate spheres ideology Male, female. Basically, was male was for the public sphere, females were for the private sphere. Men were for politics, outside grinding, right? Doing hard labor. So when a lot of dudes say, man, if females want to be like a man, why don't you come dig the ditches? They couldn't. It's not that they wouldn't, they couldn't. Women collectively never said, I don't want to do that work. It was decided for them by politics that that's a man's space, that is a woman's space, right? The public is not deciding this. You are born into cultures and societies where they have a ruling class. And that ruling class says, this is what it is. You're going to adhere to it, or you're going to leave, go to jail, die. That's how it is. So separate spheres or Victorian ideology taught that the women are soft and demure. But it's very interesting. When Europeans would leave Europe and they would have contact with the people in the jungle, or they would have contact with indigenous cultures, they noticed that the women in those cultures were wild. They weren't, quote, domesticated. They called them savages and barbarians because in many indigenous societies, there was no male-female hierarchy. Hierarchy was based off age and wisdom and knowledge. It wasn't based off you are a woman and I'm a man. Things were separated based on ability. Who has the ability to do what task? But when Europeans came to the indigenous, they broke that up and set up these hierarchies that we think have always been there. No, it has not. It's very interesting when we're talking about male and female behavior. We never include the Choctaw, the Seminole. We never include the behavior of peoples in the forest of Brazil. We don't include the Pygmy. We don't include the Ashanti. We don't include conquered people. We speak from a perspective of the conqueror. But how was the male and female dynamics prior to Jesuits, prior to missionaries, prior to the conquistadors, prior to the Dutch? It's very interesting that we say white supremacy all the time, but keep the structure. There were people, if you're in America, there were people in this land for thousands of years that had a totally different way of life. So much so that the French, the Spanish, the British called these people savages for their way of life. The cooperation between the male and the female, the European didn't understand it. Okay? So when you begin to separate things that ain't supposed to be separate, when you begin to separate them, now you have tribes. The gender war is based on tribes, man. My tribe is better than your tribe. These men's, these women. But that's against knowledge of self, though. Because when you have a knowledge of self, you understand that, yo, what you're warring with is a part of yourself, yo. As much as you might hate dudes, you have a dude in you because you're a father. You have a father. As much as you hate women, well, you have that energy in you too because you got a mother and a grandmother and a great grandmother. So what you hate is inside of you. You can run, you can run, you can run. But everywhere you go, there you are. Where are you going? Oh, it's about who was first. Oh, not the man is first. Oh, the woman is first. Again, tribalism. I don't care about none of that. What are we now? Right? And if the man was first, then please explain why the world looks like this. You sure you want to say you're first? Because then you have to take accountability for why it looks like this. So if the man was first, what happened to your planet, bruh? Why is it so chaotic and upside down, bruh? If the woman was first, cool. You got to take responsibility for the world then. So you don't get to claim first. You don't get to claim the head and not be responsible for every single thing. The head is responsible for the tail. So you sure you want to be first? You sure you want to say, yeah, this is a man's world? Well, if it's a man's world, why are we in the intellectual dark ages, man's world? If this is a woman's world, if this is about the feminine, why are we in the intellectual dark ages? Which one of y'all is going to stand up and say, all right, it's my fault? Since all y'all asses is competing to be first. All right, cool. Whose fault is it? Somebody need to take responsibility and then we can move on. But you don't get to say that this is a man's world and then blame the woman. You don't get to say that the female is first, but then blame the man. Whoever is the first, this is on your watch. So if this is a man's world and that we all run through the bloodline of Adam, you don't need to teach me female psychology. You don't need to ever talk about the woman. What you need to teach me about is male psychology and how did your world fall into so much chaos. Don't tell me about women. Tell me about your world because you are first according to y'all. Right? The woman comes out of the man. That's what y'all say. Cool. So you was first. Cool. So explain the fall then. All right, cool. The feminine, the woman is first. She predates man by eons. Cool, love. Explain your world. Clearly, there has to be some type of war that went on with the hierarchy that existed at that time. There had to be some type of infighting. How'd you lose your spot? And how did men take over? Somebody gotta raise their hand. See, over here at Coin Gang, it's supreme accountability. You don't get to say that you're the man, you're the leader, you're the supreme being, right? And everything comes from you. You built the world, but not at the same time raise your hand and say, you know what? The world looks like this because of me. You don't get to read the cosmic mother. You don't get to read when God is a woman. You don't get to raise your hand and jump for joy and talk about the glory of women without first saying, holy shit, I done lost my planet. I done lost my world, right? You don't get to do that. Huh. Oh, you're not feeling me, right? Somebody got to be responsible. One of y'all got to be responsible for the perversion and the butchering of one of the 7 laws of hermetics, which is gender. Which one of y'all going to raise your hand and admit that you have the people in the dark ages because you're not even teaching them correctly? You're teaching tribalism. Which one of y'all male and female thought leaders, male and female podcaster, male and female politicians, which one of y'all leaders are going to stand up and show the people how you have them into the intellectual dark ages? If I put a Baphomet in your face, you're going to say that's the devil, but that's male and female combined together, right? It was never odd to you waking up, looking at your religion, and like, yo, how is everybody a dude? Even the devil's a dude. God is a dude. His son is a dude. The ghost is a dude, and the devil is a dude. It never bugged you out reading the Bible, all 66 books. No book was written by a woman. You wasn't tripping off that, right? As a woman, when you look at the world, you like, damn, look at women around the world. You never thought to yourself like, I wonder if we did something in the past to put ourselves in this situation. The same way the Hebrew Israelites would say it's some divine curse. Explain to me how globally the woman is in this position. Did anything happen in the past? Was there some type of global cataclysm that changed everything? Did the sea levels rise or sink and that sunk empires? I mean, why not? Right? We love history so much. How did up become down and down become up? How come people separate the genders and put the male over here and put the woman over here? Why do you do that? What's the purpose? What's the reasoning? Right? Why tribalism when I got to work with this individual? Not just work with this individual, but for me to understand myself, I have to understand her. So the doctrine of separate spheres, the men are in public, the women are in private. Here's the ideal of women need to be in the house. Things have been going on for a short time and you think it's natural. You think it's natural. How did women get in the crib? Oh, nah. You a dude, you go over there. Right? You know what's interesting? What's interesting is growing up in hip hop culture, we all played together. Right? The only division that I knew was based on class and race. But how I grew up, hip hop culture in the 90s, there was no boys over there, girls over there. I've never seen this kind of division. Never. Never. Right? When it was about 5% teachings. And now, I will say this, that in all the schools of thought, there was a centering of the male element. But based on what I can remember, the most inclusive was hip hop. We climbed trees with the girls. We fought with the girls. We stole with the girls. We all dressed the same. The dudes rock J's, the girls rock J's. The dudes rock big pants, the girls rock big pants. Right? I read Black Panther literature. Women and girls read Black Panther literature. Hip hop, we was the same. We was at the parties together. Right? Notice the movie House Party. There ain't none of that. Everybody's partying together because it's one. Right? Female DJs, female B girls, female lyricists, female graffiti artists, male DJs, male rappers, male graffiti artists, male lyricists. Same. I've never seen this kind of because that wasn't hip hop. In hip hop culture, we mob together. I'm a person that used to run away from home a lot. Yo, when you ran away from home, you met up with other chicks that ran away from home and y'all ran away together. Huh. It was your mama tripping, my mama tripping. What's good? Let's hop on the back of this train and get out the city. I've never seen this kind of division, right? So in hip hop, what I remember is boys and girls was together. There was no separation until now. Now it's, oh, a masculine man. Mind you, I've never heard this. I'm 39 years old. I'll be 40 in 4 months. In my 40 years, I've never in my life heard this much talk about masculine energy, feminine energy. And what people are doing, and they don't even know it, is the doctrine of separate spheres. Masculinity has a color to it. Femininity has a color to it. This is all the behavior for masculinity. This is all the behavior for femininity. All of it is based on what humans want. It's not based on any observation, because if that's the case, then masculine and feminine energy would apply to nature at the same time. So you wouldn't just look at the human male. You would look at the male dog. You would look at the male cat. You would look at the male shark, the male bee, the male spider, and you'll find what's most common in them. They're all different. Male insects act different than male humans, right? In nature, no male usually sticks around to rear children. Only a couple species, But for the most part, a jaguar, they have a one night stand and he's gone, right? There is no staying together. Hyenas, the female is at the top of the hierarchy. See, we don't actually look at nature. We only look at the animals that we like. Like, oh man, you see a gorilla? He's in charge of multiple females, and look at the lion. Yo, it's other mammals. You know that, right? You know that, right? Why you don't use insects? Why you don't use fish? There's male and female fish, male and female octopus. But unless it aligns with something that we want to occur in society, we discard it. That's not right and exact. We only align with the animals that we consider behave most like us. That's vanity. So we look at the gorilla because the gorilla has multiple females that he's attached to, or we'll look at the lion and he has multiple females that he might mate with, and we'd be like, see, yo, that's two. That's two. What about seahorses? What about jellyfish? Right? What about salamanders? See, that don't matter because we might find something in nature that goes against the doctrine of separate spheres. Here's how you know it's not about knowledge. It's not about growth and development. It's not about personal development because we're going to discard anything that goes against our belief system. When it's dealing with knowledge of self, I don't care about my ego. Is it true? Can I use it? Okay? So, those that are separating the genders, they're separating it based on politics and tribalism, right? Notice, all people that separate the genders have the same fate. First, they talk about nostalgia. They also talk about utopian societies and we're going to do this, right? They create an enemy for you. They become very rigid in their teachings and you can't move from there, right? And then it becomes less about the information and more about the character. I've seen this movie many times, right? From guys and from girls. And the public, because of anger, a man did something to you, a woman did something to you, you're going to follow it because you need to go against somebody. You need to not be in supreme accountability, saying all things are my fault. When I say all things are my fault, all things, I picked everything, right? I picked everything. And my mother womb, it is against my knowledge of self. So the more I curse my mother for the relationship we had, I curse myself. Right? All things are one. All right? So, coverture. Coverture is very interesting, right? Because when guys say, you know what, we don't benefit from marriage anymore, you have to ask them, well, what did you benefit before? How was it? See, remember I said that nature don't discriminate, but humans do? This is human shit. Why would you come up with something called coverture? Why is this kind of stuff important? Coverture separates the man from the woman. It didn't bring them together. What is coverture, you say? Glad you asked. Coverture, a woman was presumed to be a minor. A woman was presumed to be a minor person so long as she stayed in the house of a male relative. Upon marriage, a woman's legal rights were subsumed by those of her husband. She was only a legal person through him. This is coming out the ideals of human, Joe. Right? This is coming out the mind of human beings. A woman was presumed to be a minor person so long as she stayed in the household of her male relative. Now remember, we speak in absolutes. This was not the law all over the world. Indigenous people did not structure their families like this. So keep that in mind. Okay? You see this coming out of Europe. And as Europeans begin to expand their empire, the French Empire, the Portuguese Empire, the Spanish Empire, these cultural norms, the indigenous conquered people also begin to have these as their culture. So now they give up the occult practices of gender because they lost the war. Whoever wins the war gets to set the terms, gets to create the gods, gets to create the policy and the culture. So what we think is natural forever since the beginning of time, no, it has not been like that. The entire world didn't look at virginity the way those from Abrahamic faiths look at it. That is not a global perspective. That is a Iceman perspective. That is a Mesopotamian perspective. That's not necessarily an Iroquois perspective or a Choctaw perspective. Males around the world didn't believe that they owned their daughter's virginity and they was giving it away as a gift to her husband. That is actually very sick when you think about it. That is very perverted. That you are the gatekeeper of your child's virginity. What the hell? Who thinks like that? But what y'all think has always been, that ain't true. There's never been these gender conflicts like now. So coverture, yeah? By marriage, the husband and wife are one person in law. That is, the very being or legal existence of the woman is suspended during the marriage, or at least is incorporated and consolidated into that of the husband, under whose wing, protection, and cover she performs everything. Look at it, 1771. This is coverture. Women had the legal status of underage children, and when married, lost most of their rights to their husband under a legal doctrine called coverture. Indentured servants had about the same rights as slaves. Native Americans and African Americans had little to no rights. So look, check it out. So even though so-called Black Americans have second-class citizenship, though that culture still trickled down to blacks and natives and Mexicans because they lost the war. So those people that was once in harmony, now, even though the black male second-class citizen in America, he still gets the privilege of practicing coverture to the woman in his group. Same with the Mexican, same with the Native American. Right? So this submissive woman and all that, that's the conquer perspective, right? But there's a reason for this, though. It starts in the abstract. It starts in philosophy. It starts in the religion. Okay? All this, men are logical, women are emotional. That's about the doctrine of separate spheres. We don't even know why we repeat the things that we repeat. Right? So a boy is just born logical. Man, I can't tell. I got a 15-year-old son that be doing dumb shit sometimes. Just like I did dumb shit. So at what age does all of a sudden the male just become logical? Right? When my son fall off his bike, he start crying. And we look at emotions wrong because we say, oh, the woman is expressing her emotions. Meanwhile, the man is holding them in. But understand, there's implosion going on. The same expression that the female is doing outwardly, that same thing is happening to the man on the inside. It does not make the woman more emotional. The man is doing the same thing. It's just on the inside. And logic is not natural to a male. We'll talk about that at another date because we'll get into a series on logic. That's not natural. That comes from training. But these ideals come from when you separate the spheres. Right? Shout out to Brother Brad. Brother Brad says, you're delusional if you think there's no difference in male and female genders. There is a difference, but they're still the same. When you deal with the occult, Mr. Brad, you understand that even things that appear different are the same. I have a dime here. The dime has different sides. The sides look completely different than each other, but it's part of the same coin. It is European thinking that makes us different. I have to say that. But where does the difference really start? It starts with the religion. Because human beings are under religious ideology. Like, people use religion to actually view the world, right? Let me show you the fallacy in that. Huge mistake when you look at the world from a religious perspective. Because when you look at the world from a religious perspective, you're not into archaeology and you're not into geology. You're not into the sciences because you're looking at the Bible and Quran to describe the world for you instead of you going to see it yourself. So real quick, I just want to put you on a couple authors and some books real quick because this is important. When God Had a Wife. You ever heard of this book? The Fall and Rise of the Sacred Feminine in the Judeo-Christian tradition. When God Had a Wife? Yeah. Blasphemy. Okay, question. Did you even know people wrote these kind of books? Okay, so you see that? Take a screenshot. The reason why there is separate spheres is because things were beginning to be separate in Abrahamic religions. Then you also have Yahweh and the gods and goddesses of Canaan. Very important. Because where I'm about to go is going to be a home run as I finish off with the ideal of gender. Remember, I said gender is in all things. So if gender is in all things, why is the other half missing from Islam? Why is it missing from Judaism? And why is it missing from Christianity? Why are they all dudes? Where is the other half? When nature shows a balance, a duality, male-female, a polarity, woman-man. But when we go into religion, it doesn't exist. Now, for the creator, or what you call the most high or God, for the creator to create male and female, and you are in the image of the creator have to create based on its own nature. Male, female. Where you get the ideal female from? Right? Okay. Also, did God have a wife? So you see, there's a lot of literature on this, but you wouldn't know that because it's about confirmation bias. Why would you? Jesus died for you. You don't need to do no work. What? And the things work for you. If you're a dude, you're like, hell yeah, I get the big piece of chicken. If you're a woman, you're like, hell yeah, he goes, does all the work. All I got to do is look cute. So the man and the woman don't want to give up their position for real, because it ain't about knowledge, right? The male benefits from things like this. The female benefits from things like this. So who wants to be a seeker of truth, especially if it changes the dynamic that we have with ourselves, right? So you got You got when God had a wife. You got Yahweh, the goddess, and God, Yahweh and the god and goddesses of Canaan. You had, did God have a wife? So you see there's another book on it, right? Check it out when you can. Who's the wife? If Yahweh had a wife, then who was the wife? Yahweh's wife was called Asherah. Now, listen, it is not surprising that Shira 7 is popular right now. Yahweh's wife was called Asherah. Trust me, there's no coincidences. All right? Yahweh of the Bible in ancient traditions has a counterpart. Her name is Shira. Now remember, Shira 7, Asherah. All right? Remember I said it. Sprinkle, sprinkle. Duality is in all things. Right? The kybalion says gender is in everything, and everything has its masculine and feminine principle. Gender manifests itself on all planes. Right? So if gender manifests itself on all planes, then how can God just be a man and that's it? Where is the woman? The son, even the spirit is a dude. The devil is a dude. When we think of Satan, we say he. This is a battle of males. Where is the female? That's important because as long as the female is missing, our households will forever be in conflict. Our lives will forever be in conflict because we won't be honest about who we are and what we are. Why do we need this political power if it's about knowledge? Why do we need this tribalism? Right? How are you perfectly fine waking up, looking at your Bible and Quran and not asking yourself, yo, where the chicks at? This is a straight sausage fest. And no one is tripping about it. Right? Okay. So I just introduced you to Asherah. So, y'all good? If y'all good in the chat, go ahead and press 7. I just want to make sure y'all straight. Remember, our topic of today is unraveling the gender code, a journey of understanding, right? And this is not gender banging or anything, because as long as we keep going down that path, that is self-destruction, for real, right? But if you're good in the chat, go ahead and press 7. All right, I want to read something to y'all. God has many manifestations across many religions. There are also many commonalities, some of which essentially define the concept of God. Primarily, they are worshipped as singular, the ultimate power of the universe. Many gods typically in pantheistic religions have wives. But was there also a queen of heaven in monotheistic Judaism, manifest as the ultimate consort of God, equally powerful and worshipped? Yes, her name is Asherah. This article explores the story of the forgotten goddess Asherah, or the wife of God. The Old Testament portrays God as the ultimate power of the universe, but scriptures and texts related to the Old Testament also offer tantalizing clues as to the possible wife of God. The claim that God had a wife and she was worshipped by people in the Middle East has surfaced from time to time. Such claims are not new, and there has been much independent research into the presence of other gods and goddesses apart from the super entity of God as portrayed in the Old Testament. There is much evidence that ancient cultures in the Middle East worshiped many gods and goddesses as idols. One of the most prominent goddesses of these was Asherah, worshipped as queen of heaven by the early Israelites. Did y'all notice? If this is your first time hearing about Asherah, Go ahead and press 9. If you're a father and you have a daughter, this is super important because what it does is it instills confidence, right? To know that you exist in history, that your likeness was part of deities that people practiced thousands of years ago. But if your daughter wakes up and she doesn't see herself in history, how can your daughter be confident if when she's looked in history there's a blackout and everything runs through the mail? Then if your daughter start hoeing and you get mad, do you blame her? The mail got the juice. Why wouldn't she do that? Huh. If you a dude, what it does is, for real, it takes pressure off you. Like, yo, you ain't gotta be all that shit. That's a lie, fam. You ain't gotta be all that. You ain't gotta give the world your body. Your purpose ain't just procreating and making babies. You don't have to center women. You don't have to do none of that. You can really go on your hero's journey, and wherever you land, you land. So for you, when you know that in antiquity, there were female goddesses and they played a strong role in culture and civilization, and the story is different. You ain't just some slave baby making machine. Yo, you free now, bro. So the story benefits everybody. Once we realize that gender isn't everything, we stop operating and behaving like we do. Right? Okay. But many believe that the existence of Asherah was suppressed by the narrative of the Bible, which sought to hide the historical truth. In fact, the Bible states in multiple excerpts that there was indeed idol worship, and Asherah was the principal goddess in idol form. From archaeological evidence to shreds of evidence from the Old Testament, there are many instances that support the existence of Asherah. Archaeological evidence from ancient temples find the god worshipped by the Israelites, known by the name of Yahweh, was worshipped alongside his wife Asherah. Okay. Let me see. Evidence, figurines discovered in the, I'm about to butcher some names. This Caliente, or not Caliente, Contilit, Ardrid, I guess, an archaeological site in the east of the Sinai Peninsula dating back to the 8th century BC, speak of Yahweh of Samaria and his Asherah, and Yahweh of Teman and his Asherah. Samaria refers to central regions of Israel and Teman to the neighboring Edomites, confirming this is a reference to the God of the Israelites. So this is some of their archaeology. To mention the mention of his Asherah indicates a consort relationship between the ancient god and the queen of heaven. Similar inscriptions that refer to Yahweh and his consort have been discovered on tombs in the Kabarit El Qam, an archaeological site in the biblical kingdom of Judah that also dates back to the 8th century. There are also figurines and artifacts that also hint towards the worship of Asherah in the Middle East in the 8th century and 9th centuries BC. From horned altars and figurines to the ritualistic objects, many artifacts discovered scattered around much of the Middle East indicate there was a cult of Asherah at some time in the 8th century. All right. I got a video. All right, I'm going to play this. Y'all go ahead and press 1.
Now I'm in a temple in the ancient city of Arad, south of Jerusalem, and this city was under the control of the kingdom of Judah from about the 9th century. In the ancient city of Arad.
If the volume is good and you can hear this, go ahead and press 1. This is about 5 minutes.
In the ancient city of Arad, south of Jerusalem, and this city was under the control of the kingdom of Judah from about the 9th century to the 6th century BCE. And what is significant about this temple is that it is the only Judahite temple discovered by archaeologists. Now, of course, there's a much more famous sister temple in Jerusalem, built by King Solomon, and in fact, this temple follows a similar design, an outer courtyard with a sacrificial altar and an inner Holy of Holies. And in this Holy of Holies, they found 2 standing stones stones, one larger than the other, and 2 incense altars, one larger than the other. Now, standing stones are found in shrines in cultic areas throughout this region, and in West Semitic religions, they frequently are interpreted as representing the presence of a deity. But you might be thinking, wait, I thought Israelite religion had one God, Yahweh, and you shall have no other gods before me. Why 2 standing stones? Well, Yahweh might have had a consort, or a wife, if you will.
And here's where the wind got so bad that I need to record this next part in the studio. Our first piece of evidence comes from an inscription discovered in the Sinai that dates to about the 800s BCE. On one of the storage jars found in this site, archaeologists found a Hebrew blessing that mentions Yahweh of Samaria and his Asherah. A similar Iron Age inscription was found in a burial cave in Kirbet El Kom, 6.5 miles from the ancient city of Lachish. The inscription reads, "Blessed by Uriah by Yahweh, for from his enemies by Yahweh's Asherah he has saved him." So Asherah was a Canaanite goddess, and she's portrayed in earlier texts as a consort to the Canaanite god El. Since early Israelite religion shows strong parallels to Canaanite religion, some scholars argue that these inscriptions illustrate that some Israelites likewise viewed Asherah as the consort to their god, Yahweh. This is the basis of archaeologist Dr. William Deaver's book, Did God Have a Wife? And he views this temple at Arad as further evidence of this pairing, Yahweh and Asherah. But not everyone agrees, and I don't want to over-sensationalize this topic. First of all, the grammar of these 2 inscriptions is weird. Yahweh and his Asherah. Some scholars have argued that these inscriptions are instead referring to a ritual object called an Asherah. We indeed see references to an Asherah pole all throughout the Hebrew Bible, some sort of stylized symbolic tree. In fact, the word Asherah appears 40 times in the Bible, but the vast majority of these times, the word seems to be referring to a cultic object and not to the goddess herself. So it's possible that Yahweh cultic practice included this object, and that we should interpret this inscription as referring to Yahweh and his Asherah, lowercase a, and not to a possible consort. This is notably the position of Dr. Judith Hadley, a Hebrew Bible scholar who wrote an entire book on the cult of Asherah in Iron Age Israel and Judah. But having said all that, it really shouldn't surprise us that some Israelites might have worshipped a goddess as well. The Hebrew Bible itself constantly complains about the Israelites going astray and worshipping other gods, and moreover, female figurines are found everywhere in Israelite dwellings, which most scholars associate with a goddess, possibly a Astarte or Asherah, though the leading expert on these pillar figurines says we just don't know for sure. So, though it may be a stretch to identify these 2 standing stones in Arad as Yahweh and Asherah, it's not a stretch to say that the pairing of these 2 deities continued in some form from Canaanite religion. Okay, now back to the temple.
So knowing what we know about religion in ancient Israel, we can make a little more sense of the constant complaints of Asherah in the Hebrew Bible as complaints coming from an intellectual elite in Jerusalem with a much more strict monotheism. In fact, many historians say that the kings Hezekiah and Josiah launched religious reforms that destroyed these satellite temples to Yahweh, destroyed the cultic sites of Asherah, and centralized worship of Yahweh in Jerusalem alone. This illustrates 2 things. One, that Israelite religion is more complex than we initially think. We like to conceptualize it as a very strict monotheistic religion, but this archaeological evidence suggests that there's a lot of diversity and controversy in ancient Israelite religion. And secondly, this shows how ambiguous it is when you try to interpret textual evidence alongside archaeological evidence. Both of these bodies of evidence are ambiguous and require interpretation from both textual historians and archaeologists. So, if you would like to check out some of the scholarship, I'm putting sources in the description below.
Okay. So there are people doing the work. Okay. There are people doing the work on these topics. Again, remember the books that I showed not too long ago. Like, this is real scholarship that, like, people know this. When God Had a Wife. This is real shit. Yahweh and the gods and goddesses of Canaan. Right? Remember, when you're born, many of us, based on your class, you're born from a conquered group, right? And world history world history and ancient knowledge was suppressed from the conquered group. So you only know what you know, right? But I want you to understand, when someone gives you something, especially an ideology or a deities, and it's one, it's something, and the other is missing, it ain't right and exact, because gender is in all things. Now, Ashera was Yahweh's wife. How come you don't know? Right? The reason why you don't know is also the reason why you don't know about Alat, excuse me, Alzua, and Manat. Because the same thing that happened to Ashera also happened to Alat, Alzuza, and Manat. I'm going to read something real quick to you. In the Quran, Alat is mentioned along with Alzuza and Manat in Surah 53, 19 through verse 23. The tribe of Ad of Aram of the pillars is also mentioned in Surah 89, 5, verse 5 through 8. And archaeological evidence from Amram shows conspicuous inscriptions devoted to her for the protection of a tribe by that name. Alat, Allah, right? Alat is also explicitly attested from early Christian Islamic records discussing in the pre-Islamic period, according to the Book of Idols by Hassan ibn. The pre-Islamic Arabs believed Alat resided in the Kaaba and also had an idol inside the sanctuary. Now, you're going to notice something, right? So, in pre-Islamic traditions, the woman is in it. After Muhammad, the woman isn't. Al-Zuza was also worshipped by the Nabateans, who equated her with the Greek goddess Aphrodite. She is mentioned in the Quran in Surah 53:19 as being one of the goddesses that people worship. The temple dedicated to Al-Uzza and the statue itself was destroyed by Khalid ibn Walid in 638 AD. Shortly after the conquest of Mecca, Muhammad began aiming at eliminating the last idols reminiscent of pre-Islamic practices. That also happened in Israelite culture as well. What are the idols that they are eliminating? Your other half. He sent Khalid Walid during Ramadan 630 to a place called Nakala, where the goddess Al-Zuza was worshipped by the tribes of the Quraysh and the Kana. The shrine's custodians were from Banu Sabian. Al-Azuza was considered the most important goddess of the region. Khalid set out with 30 horsemen to destroy the shrine. It appears that there were two idols of Al-Azuza, one real and one fake. Khalid first located the fake and destroyed it, then returned to the prophet to report that he fulfilled his mission. Did you see anything unusual? Asked the prophet. No, replied Khalid. Then you have not destroyed Al-Azuza. Said the prophet, go again. So this is Muhammad destroying images of women, right, in pre-Islamic traditions. Okay? This has an effect on all of us, because not only in Islam, but also in Hebrew traditions, women played a major role. They was also part of the pantheon. There was no God by itself. People worship male deities, female deities. They were married to each other. We create mythology based on our own lives. So why would there be a male deity and that's it, but in your crib is mother, father, son, daughter? In nature is male dog, male shark, male tiger, female tiger. But when it comes to the deity, it's straight male. You would have to turn your brain off to not really pay attention to that. Okay, real quick. Angry at the mistake that he had made, Khalid once again rode to Nakla, and this time he found the real temple of Al-Azuza. Now peep this. The custodian of the temple of Al-Zuzah had fled for his life, but before forsaking his goddess, he had hung a sword around her neck in the hope that she might be able to defend herself. As Khalid entered the temple, he was faced by an unusually naked, dark woman who stood in his way and wailed. Khalid did not stop to decide whether this woman might be there to seduce him or to protect the idol. So he drew his sword, and in the name of Allah, and with one powerful stroke, the woman was cut in two. He then smashed the idol. He returned to Mecca, gave the prophet an account of what he had seen and done. Then the prophet said, yes, that was Al-Zuzah, and never again shall she be worshipped in your land. Now, this is the Prophet Muhammad, right? Now, when you look at Islam and the Bible, the woman is missing. The woman is missing because there was a blackout of her history. The same way as you don't know a lot of indigenous people's history. Whoever wins the war, you get to burn everything and build everything in your image. I'm going to put this article in the chat for anybody who wants to check it out. One second. Check this out. All right. So, what does the Kybalion say? The reason why I went through both of those, both the Bible and the Quran, is because gender is in all things, yet it's missing from that, right? And the fact people say, oh, it's only one God. It's one God because all the other ones was destroyed. Not because it's one, it's many gods. And the ones that were destroyed were the female deities. Why is that important? Because if female deities are missing from the story, then we're going to structure our households and a society in a way that's off balance. Look, what you call patriarchy or being male-centered, that's not even healthy for men. It's not healthy. It's good for your ego to see yourself in history and it's just you. It's good for your ego, but it's not healthy, right? Because then you're put in roles that you don't even need to be in, right? What does the Kybalion say, though? Gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. Gender manifests on all planes. This principle embodies the truth that there is gender manifesting in everything, the masculine and the feminine principle ever at work. Never ask how a woman is in her masculine. Why wouldn't she be? She's born with it already in her. How are you going to say a man is acting feminine? It's not an act. It's his nature. He's born with it because gender is in everything at all times. This is true not only in the physical plane, but of the mental and even the spiritual planes. On the physical plane, the principle manifests as sex. On the higher plane, it takes higher forms, but the principle is ever the same. No creation, physical, mental, or spiritual, is possible without this principle. An understanding of its laws will throw light on the many a subject that has perplexed the mind of men. The principle of gender works ever in the direction of generation, regeneration, and creation. Everything and every person contains the two elements or principles of the great principle within it, him and her. Who is teaching that men are one thing? Who is teaching that women are one thing? Who is teaching that a male is one thing? Who is teaching that a female is one thing? They can teach it, but it's not a cult, though. It's tribalism. It's based on separating the people based on small differences, not even big ones, very small differences, right? But who is teaching that? And those that are teaching it are separating the people based on tribe, right? It's a game, it's a business model. But what did I just read to you? Listen and listen clear. Everything, every person contains two elements or principles. Did it say some people? Did it say some things? It said everything. The dog and cat has its masculine principles and feminine principles, right? The piece of metal has a feminine side and a masculine side. This is baked into nature and you can't do anything about it. It's based on the program. Whatever intelligence out there has put it baked into nature that when you are born into a world of multiple poles and you have all of it in you, right? You can isolate the energy and use it for specific things. But when that task is finished, you still go back to the balance. Each man has a feminine side. Each woman has a masculine side, right? It's not about clothes, right? It's not about the tone of voice, right? Masculinity and femininity is based on a vibration. It's based on poles. When you start coloring it, when you start personalizing it, you are participating in the doctrine of separate spheres. That's politics, but it's not a cult. No mystery school on the planet would separate the two genders in the way that the people are, right? As you rise through the ranks of Freemasonry, you get introduced to the Divine Mother. You start out believing in a Judeo-Christian male deity and rise through the ranks and then submit to the mother. What does the book say though? Everything and every person contains two elements or principles or this great principle within it, him and her. Every male thing has the female element also. Every female contains also the male principle. If you would understand the philosophy of mental and spiritual creation, generation, and regeneration, you must understand and study this Hermetic principle. It contains the solutions of many mysteries of life. We caution you that this principle has no reference to the many base, pernicious, and degrading lustful theories, teachings, and practices, which are taught under fanciful titles and which are a prostitution of the great natural principle of gender. You heard that? Everybody saying that we're different is prostitution. Here's why the mystery school, you needed to be initiated into the knowledge, right? Because it taught you how to think, not what to think. Those that are perverting gender are telling you what to think about it, not how to think about it. They're not teaching you in the abstract. They are connecting ancient, pure principles to your pain body. They're making you relate to this shit based off your own trauma. You a passport nigga. Oh, these dusties. Anytime that shit is included, you are not dealing with knowledge of self no more. What you are dealing with is politics, right? This is the same way a president gets elected. You look at the culture and then connect it to the people that's hurting and saying, you know what? Elect me. Because the reason why you're hurt is because of them. So let's get to them, right? This is not a us versus them. You can't go to war on masculinity. You can't go to war on femininity. The poles would take you off the planet. How you going to go to war with what is, right? You can't even see it. How you gonna go to war with it? When it comes to the doctrine of separate spheres, you'll think there's a war on you as a man. They're coming for our pants. We're not even allowed to wear pants anymore. There's a war on masculinity. If you're a woman, you think it's a war on your feminine nature. Oh man, the T's are invading our space. How come when it's that debate, y'all all go to, but we can have babies in pyramids though. Not pyramid. We can have babies in periods though. We're real women. But what makes you a woman? Oh, the fact we could give birth and have babies. Now y'all got to be careful with that, because in the doctrine of separate spheres, you only say your womanhood is based on childbirth and periods. Yet, when it comes to a man, ambitious, courage, bravery, strength, discipline, patience, logic, intellect, reasoning, all those things in the doctrine of separate spheres are associated with male. When it comes to female, oh, babies and periods. That's why it's so easy for people to come in your space, because you're only saying, "Oh, we got babies. We have periods." But when it comes to man, logic, ambition, strength, culture, philosophy, courage, reason, discipline, to be man is very long list, right? When I hear y'all talk about your womanhood, you never put the trump card on the table. You say periods and babies. You never say a woman is spiritual. A woman is spirit. Our womanhood exists in another realm. You go to a very low state, childbirth and periods. If you put the trump card on the table, no one would be able to compete with that. Our womanhood exists in the supernatural. How can somebody debate that? I just gave you the trump card. Stop talking about babies and periods to define your womanhood. You have to put something on the table that's so powerful that it just shuts the conversation up. What makes me a woman is spirituality. End of story. End of story. There woman's intuition. Where does that come from? The caring and nurturing. Where does that come from? Right? Why do you automatically go to, oh, periods? That's a low state. Why you, oh, childbirth? Okay, everything gives birth. That's not special to the woman, right? You have to go to a place that the rest of the females in nature can't go to, which is the supernatural. And when you go there, that even supersedes the things on the males list. Oh, logic. All that shit is earth stuff. Right? When you go to the supernatural, the reason why many women don't go there is because you've been cut off from the supernatural. Right? You've been cut off from the supernatural. So the furthest you go is in your supernatural. The furthest you go in your metaphysics is religion, right? Let us ask Jesus for courage and strength. What? Your power comes from the supernatural. Right? Your power comes from the supernatural. Right? The trump card for any woman in all that conversation, a woman is supernatural. Why are the oracles, they're always women? You go to get your palm read from women. You go to get your cards flipped over by women, right? When I need to somebody to look inside my life into another realm, I go to women. Where are they getting that from? Yo, when Abrahamic religions were on the rise, they would hunt down the gypsies and slaughter them. They will hunt down the palm readers, the astrologists, right? Why is it so easy for women to go to astrology and numerology? When women leave um, Judeo-Christian, when women leave Abrahamic religions, why is it so easy to fall into astrology and crystals like nothing, right? Even if they're new to the craft, why is that so easy, right? And when you look at the story, check out the article I posted. They destroyed all the idols. Who was the idols? Women. Women temples. Now, how does this affect men? It affects men because we begin to look at the woman and the female as one thing, right? Earth. See, give me babies. But the true power of the woman is not the birth of children. It's actually the birth of ideals, right? It's the birth of ideals, right? So the smart man understands that the woman is spirit and you want her, or you align yourself with her to birth a world, right? Not babies, right? See, when you dealing with the doctrine of separate spheres, the male is taught to think about his extinction all the time. So it's all about babies, 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 babies. That is not that is not the power of the woman though. To give a man babies. That's a low state. The real power is grandma, mama, auntie, baby. All right, I got this ideal. I got this plan. I want you to look over it. I want to talk to you about it. I want you to run. Now here's the thing though. The woman got to be pure. I'm not talking about virginity. I'm talking about her diet, right? What she eats, what she listens to, what she consumes. So when you come with this plan, she's able to receive it and give birth, right, to your ideals. Neo want to see a woman. Morpheus brought Neo. What's interesting thing, all this red pill, blue pill shit, but don't talk about the oracle with some old black lady. We skipped that part, right? In the Matrix, Neo's wake up call, he had to go chop it up with the oracle. We skipped that for some reason, right? And the only thing she did was push him back to herself. Okay? So the woman is not just. I cringe every time I hear women say, but we give birth. So do cheetahs. So do bears. Right? The human woman, right, has an ability that the rest of females in nature don't have. The human woman has the ability to give birth to a world. And I'm not talking babies. I'm talking skyscrapers. I'm talking the Hoover Dam. I'm talking $1 million companies. Right? I'm talking healthy living. Right? Because I bring my plan to her and she's a satellite. Right? So when I bounce this energy off of her, that shit go in the ether, fam. Right? So When the woman is in religion, it shuts down the creative ability of the household because she is no longer a satellite. Because for real, I'm just now here's where we are different in genders. Like dudes need heroes. That's why Muhammad, Jesus, Superman, Michael Jordan, right? Dudes need heroes. Dudes' deities are on the earth. Women's deities aren't. When the woman becomes religious like the male, we lose power. It's guys that need superheroes. The redeemer. These redeemers are for the male on the hero's journey, right? Our paths are different, but they end up aligning. So when you bring the woman into Islam, into Christianity, into Judaism, you take her out of being a satellite, unless she is practicing the mystical part of those religions. So for Christianity, it would be Gnosticism. For Judaism, it would be Kabbalah. For Islam, it would be Sufism. See, there's a shadow part of the Abrahamic religions, right? Most people stay on the surface. Everything and every person contains the two elements or principles or this great principle within it, him and her. Every male thing has the female element also. Every female contains also the male principle. When we say that society is going crazy, why? Because we don't know ourselves. Yo, it is not about saving this civilization. It is not about reproducing so we don't go extinct. That's survival shit. Who cares? You don't care if your bloodline doesn't live 500 years from now? No, I don't. No, I don't. And the reason why I don't is because I've dealt with the shadow side of my male psychology, which is to try to reproduce, to try to live forever, to try to hoard, to try to stay here. I don't care about none of that shit, right? And the woman is not here for me to police. I don't care how sexual women act if it brings down the entire Western civilization. I don't care. Let it go. Like, let it burn like all things. That's not my purpose, right? So the issue is when you do the shadow work, you're going to look inside of yourself and see something that you don't like. You're going to look and see that there is a male part of you if you're a female. There is a female part of you if you're a male. If it wasn't, then a man wouldn't be able to transition into a woman. Where's he getting this from? Inside of himself. Right? When a woman says, it's like I'm just one of the guys. Where is she getting this from? Inside of her, the seed is already there. But when you deal with the doctrine of separate spheres, you think it's odd when a woman is in her, quote, masculine, because you have been taught that she's one. You think it's odd if a man displays, quote, feminine energy, because you've been taught that we're all separate from that. Yo, the Kybalion teaches us, even though there's 7, all those things are one thing. It's one thing. You see this? It's one breath. It's one surface. It's one planet. But out of many, one. Right? The spirit is androgynous. This is where male and female come from. The androgynous place. Where in that space, they're together. They're one. But the occultist begins to pull the poles apart to understand its energies. And then you put it back together. Now the dark occultist strips them apart and really separates them. Those that want power. So we have a government and we have a clergy of occultists who've gone rogue, who are not really teaching the people, who are using old information. I'm talking about hundreds of thousands of years old. very old shit and using it against people and got everybody going chaotic. And then when somebody does bring up things like this, you think they're loony, right? But not as loony as a person walking on water and a person in a fish's mouth for 3 days and didn't suffocate. You know what I'm saying? And a fish or a serpent talking to a woman. Like, come on, man. Right? So, again, everything and every person contains two elements or principles or this great principle within it, him and her. Right? Don't let people treat you like Willie Lump Lump. Right? This time now, you got to build with alikes. Right? And for real, remember I said it. As a man, you can conquer all aspects of the hero's journey and your shadow. But you're not going to fully know yourself unless you can bounce yourself off a woman. Right? You're going to need your energy to hit a woman and it to come back to you. You will never fully know yourself with the woman missing. Sorry, excuse me. Right? As a woman, no matter how far you get in your journey, it's going to always bring you back to a man. I'm not talking about sexually. I'm talking about your opposite. Whether that's a homie that sees you, a father, whether that's a stranger, whether that's a person in history, it doesn't matter. Man and woman, know thyself, right? And in order to know thyself, you have to know your opposite, what you think is different from you, but it's actually you, right? So people have us engaging in a war of self, yo. We are at war with ourselves. We hate ourselves. You a dude and you hate the feminine, you hate yourself. You a woman and you hate the masculine, you hate yourself. You are in conflict with your own mind. You think the world is different and it ain't. The occultists know it ain't. I know it ain't. Right? But I know the game though, and I know how to do a good business model. Good business models make these two individuals go absolutely crazy and make them think they're different, right? And then I come through with the Kansas City Shuffle. That's the game, y'all. Again, listen, does it say some things or say everything? It says everything. And every person contains two elements or principles or this great principle within it. Him and her. Every male thing has the female element. Also, every female contains also the male principle. What we talking about? What we talking about? So I just wanted to let all my members know, apologize for my absence. We will continue our Wounded Healer series. When I do that kind of stuff, I got to take a break from it because, I'm pouring a lot. So we're going to continue that Sunday for sure, 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We will continue our series, The Wounded Healer, and that's only for our members. And I apologize for my absence, but gotta step away from the mic, right? So for anybody interested in the Wounded Healer series, go ahead and get a membership, right? And then you'll be with me, a part of that behind the scenes conversation. Also, for those looking for more gems, an accountability partner, somebody that can walk with you from A to Z. If you like what you heard, go ahead and put yourself on my calendar. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead and book yourself, right? So I could be accountability partner. I can help you walk through this foggy life. So real quick, if you've been here, I'll take just a couple questions. Throw them in the super chat. Throw them in the chat. Before I get out of here, I think I see One. How do you recognize the masculine and feminine aspects in yourself? Is it even necessary to acknowledge the distinction? Look, for real, it's whatever you say it is. It's it's not one thing. You know what I'm saying? It's whatever you say it is, right? So when if you're painting or you're an artist and you say, you know what, I want to create from a masculine perspective. However you express, that's what it is. If you say today I want to tap into my feminine energy, right? And you start cleaning the house or you start throwing things away, that's your expression. It's just different poles, but it's going to look however you make it look. See, the thing about this stuff, it doesn't have these rules. You know what I mean? We're not dealing with separate spheres. So there's you can't gatekeep this stuff. However you express feminine energy, that's what it is. The oh, it's not demure and you got to be quiet and soft. That's politics. However you express, that's what it is. Right? And what you can do is you can write it down, right? How you express. You know what I'm saying? Based off how it feels inside of you when you do it. Now the key is to be able to divorce the feeling and be able to separate them and categorize it. Okay, when it's this, I feel like this is my masculine energy. Because remember, it ain't you acting like a dude. And it ain't another person acting like a female. It's an energy. It expresses itself in dudes. It expresses itself in females. But yo, what is masculine from a tiger? What is femininity look like in an ant? How would an ant express femininity? Or is this only human things? Well, that would be non-cipher, right? That wouldn't be real, right? Because it says everything and every person contains two elements or principles. So the lion has masculine energy and the tiger has masculine energy and they have female and feminine energy. How would they express it? They might bite your ass, right? So when they bite you, you can't say that's not feminine energy. It's in them, right? Where do these two things separate and where do they meet, right? So just be. That's it. Don't worry about being in your masculine or feminine. Just be, right? And you got to keep in mind, when you just be, it's the ultimate threat for those that want power. When you say, man, I don't give a damn about none of this, it could burn right now. That's the ultimate threat. When you are in constant chaos, when you got a mother wound, a daddy wound, a divorce, when you going through that kind of transition, man, that's a great time for people to put you under their wing. And next thing you know, you part of some tribe that you didn't even know the rules. You know what I'm saying? Just be. When it comes to gender, don't pick a side. Because whatever side you pick, you're going against yourself. And don't allow people to make you think the world is going crazy. It's not. It's not. It is, but it ain't. It's whatever you look at. It's the best of times and the worst of times. But there can never be a war on masculinity. You can never go to war on femininity. How can you go to war inside the mind that's creating it? The mind of the earth creates the all. We are in the universe, right? How can you go to war with something you ain't even create? Right? You can't destroy masculine energy. You can't destroy feminine energy. You would destroy yourself in the process because it just is and it can never not be because that is the way. I take another question regarding what we talked about tonight and or today, excuse me. And the book I was reading from was the Kybalion, and I emphasize everything and every person contains the two elements or principles or this great principle within it, him and her. Every male thing has a female element also. And every female contains also the male principle. There cannot be a male god without a female god. It can't. If it ever pops up like that, it's perversion. It's tribalism. It's politics. Because everywhere in nature shows up male and female. So male and female must also show up in your spirituality. And when it shows up in your spirituality, now you're dealing with androgyny. Right? For there to be a male and female God, together they come out of one place. Right? The male and female God come out the mind of humans, but that's another story. Because we create the gods. I want to tell you another place gender exists that you might have not known. When I take my do-rag off and I tell y'all that I'm a nigga with waves, what you are seeing is both poles together. It's both energies combined that give me these 360s. It's feminine energy. It's masculine energy. When I take this shit off, not do-rag off, and then waves is dip, you gotta understand that's both energies combined working together to give y'all the great experience of me being a nigga with waves. No? Maybe next time.
I done made money, lost it, and made it back again. I done took major losses in the game. You get the benefit from my losses. I sat with some of the realest people that ever walked this planet. You get the benefit from that. See, when I'm talking, man, I'm not one of these niggas, man, that didn't get it out the mud. I'm not freestyling. I'm not speculating. This is raw and authentic. This is the game that you apply ASAP and it change your life, and people see a difference in you. People say, wow, look at her. Wow, look at him. Man, whatever they doing, man, it must be working, cause damn, they look better. Damn, they sound better. They moving better. Well, that ain't free. You gotta pay for it just like I had to pay for it. Put the money on the wood.